Don't you worry. Daddy's home.
Hey Mike, so we just finished watching the panel for The Boys, and I don't know about you, but I loved The Boys Season 1, so I'm really excited for Season 2. What did you think?
I recently, in preparation for this, rewatched Season 1, literally in one sitting, all at once in a single day, this past week, and I loved it even more the second time than the first time.
Yeah, it's such a bingeable show.
Yeah, it's just I had forgotten a lot of stuff since I watched it for the first time when it came out, and I just it's one of the things that I'm most looking forward to. I'd forgotten how much I liked it, basically.
Yeah, and we got the trailer earlier, like that already came out, but let's go ahead and jump into the panel itself and talk about what we learned, the various things that we learned from the panel. The first thing that we learned about was Butcher, and that's kind of, I feel like, especially from Season 1, that was the biggest cliffhanger, was him learning that his wife is still alive.
Definitely.
So I'm kind of surprised, actually, in a way, they revealed what his motivation was going to be throughout the season.
Yeah, so let's talk about the panel itself a little bit, because one of my favorite things about this panel, Aisha Tyler was the moderator, and has a lot of experience moderating Comic-Con panels, and that experience translated very well to the digital version, I think, because this was one panel where they weren't afraid to talk about the episodes that aren't out yet. Right? A lot of the times during these panels, they'll pussyfoot around stuff and not really reveal anything at all, even at minor stuff. Like, as you just said, for Butcher, they revealed that his motivation throughout Season 2 is going to shift away from getting revenge against Homelander and going to be more about rescuing his wife or finding her again, I assume, because at the end of Season 1, Homelander brought him there to show him the situation, as Homelander was meeting his son for the first time, and then that was it. So we don't know what's going to happen right after that. Clearly they're going to be separated again. Homelander might just throw Butcher into space or something. We don't know how he'll recover, but yeah, we learned, Karl Urban said that throughout Season 2 he's going to be trying to rescue his wife.
So I guess to me, though, the surprise is going to be, we don't really know how she feels either at this point. We don't know how she feels about Homelander. We don't know how she feels about Butch, Karl Urban's character, and obviously her kid is Homelander's. So yeah, that's why, like, that's why I'm so surprised. She must know because the kid clearly has superpowers. Right. I mean, she would obviously know.
Vought has been hiding her, but yeah, when your point to we don't know how she feels is great. Like, I put rescue in quotes in my notes because she's been alive these 8 years that Butcher has been searching for her. She hasn't tried to contact him,
Yeah, exactly. She never reached out to him, and that's why I'm like, okay, well, maybe
does she need rescuing?
Right, does she need rescuing? Or maybe she is afraid of Homelander and what he would do if she,
Yeah, maybe Homelander's gonna go stick her in some, vault somewhere.
Yeah, so
we don't know what he's gonna do.
I guess there also are still questions, but it was just surprising me that they revealed, like, oh, his mission is to rescue her now. I was like, wow, that's like a big reveal.
Speaking of Homelander, we also learned some things about him. Specifically, in Season 2, he's growing ever more unhinged, which is sort of predictable given
that's
what
not
happened.
At all surprising.
What happened between him and Stillwell.
Yeah.
And we saw a still shot from Season 2 of Homelander drinking a bottle of her breast milk.
Yeah, and that was in the trailer too. They had that shot of him drinking the milk, and even when I saw the trailer, my assumption was that it was probably breast milk given Homelander. It's like, okay, that kind of makes sense, and that's like weird and creepy with him, but
the Oedipus complex continues.
Yeah.
But also
apparently it's Stillwell's breast milk. That's what another thing they revealed. Like, I was like, it's probably breast milk, and apparently it's Stillwell's. So.
Oh, I assumed it was Stillwell's because there was scenes throughout Season 1 of her, pumping because she has this new baby, and Homelander was always weird about it. And then he goes back to her house and steals her stash of breast milk out of the fridge or something. So weird, but also that also that he's going to become sort of the de facto leader of the. I mean, he's already the leader of the Seven, but he's really going to take charge and sort of hold them all under his thumb as he becomes ever more power crazy.
And it sounded like, and maybe I'm wrong, but it sounded like he was going to be challenged by another member, and it would be Stormfront. Like, I guess they were going to have some sort of like power struggle for the leader of the Seven.
Yeah. Do you want to talk about Stormfront?
Yeah, let's go. I think she's going to be it sounds like she's huge. So let's go ahead and jump to Stormfront next.
Stormfront is the new character being played by Aya Cash, who is incredible, and I love her. I love her in You're the Worst, the FX show that she was on. And so I'm so excited about her joining the cast, and I was really excited she was on the panel, and it was extremely cool to hear her talking about her character. And it also revealed something that a conclusion that you and I both came to separately, although they did not state it explicitly within the panel itself, which is that Stormfront is probably a white supremacist / Nazi.
Yeah, like it has to be the case, because it's funny, because so she was describing the panel that she was like, yeah, so it came with a huge disclaimer when I went and auditioned for the role. And then, like, at first I was like, oh, like, given the show, is she gonna have to be nude? Is it like a sex thing? And then as she was talking more about it, about the character, it became more and more clear. She's like, yeah, it's something about this character that, like, it's hard as an actor playing or not hard. It's just as an actor, I'm playing a character who I'm adamantly against violently disagree with.
Violently disagree with this character.
Right.
And that's like, one of the challenges for an actor.
Someone who I ultimately violently disagree with.
Right. And I was like, okay, clearly it's a white supremacist. There's no...
Right, but then also, her name is literally Stormfront, which is the name of this infamous neo-Nazi, white supremacist right-wing propaganda website. And
I didn't know that until you told me that. I had no clue, but
I mean, it has to be intentional because
I'm sure it is. I had no idea.
Because the showrunner Eric Kripke, he also said during the panel that this show is full of really pointed social commentary, and one of the things he specifically mentioned they're going to tackle in season 2 is white supremacy, white nationalism, and systemic racism. And so all of these things kind of rolled together in my head, and I was like, oh, she's a Nazi.
So that's gonna be interesting. And it's also cool. It's funny though, because Aisha was like really excited about her character. Aisha said that Stormfront storyline is very prescient with today's culture, which again is another clue that's a white supremacy thing, systemic racism thing. And the fact that Aisha was so excited about it's like, okay, it's got to be dealing with like all the stuff that we're going through right now, 100%. Yeah.
And Dave, neither of us read the comics, but after having this thought, we did Google it. And yeah, it turns out Stormfront, being a male character in the comics, indeed is a neo-Nazi. So I think it's fair to say that we were right. It's funny that we both had that thought without even knowing anything about the character.
Yeah, right. I mean, like, it's I don't know, it's a little surprising to me that they were trying to be so coy about it, since it's so easy to look up, like we finally did.
Yeah, I mean, it worked on fans like you and me who were big fans of the show but hadn't read the books.
That's true.
I tend to not Google things like that because I find, anybody who watched our video together about the Netflix Witcher show is probably aware that the more, or is not surprised to hear me say that the more I know about the source material on something, the less I generally like the adaptation.
Yeah, and I've heard that The Boys' source material is pretty different from the show, to my understanding. Because I did look it up because I was interested in reading the comic because of the show, and then I found out that
and I like Garth Ennis. I love Preacher.
Pretty different. Yeah, so I was like, you know what? I like the show so much. It's a show, like, I go two ways. Sometimes if I like a show, I can't wait and I read the comics. For The Boys, I like the show so much that I didn't want the comics to spoil me for the rest of the season, or for season 2.
Well, we've been spoiled on the fact that Stormfront is a Nazi.
But yeah, I'm excited to see how they do it, because like The Boys last season was really good in how they handled the Me Too movement, I think. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, it'll be exciting.
Yeah, it's really good at that stuff.
Yeah. So, speaking of the Me Too movement, let's move on to Starlight. What a natural transition. We've had some good natural transitions.
That was great.
Throughout this. Yeah,
absolutely.
Obviously, her traumatic experience from season 1 is over at this point, which is like the Me Too stuff that happened to her. The fact that Huey was lying to her, which was like someone that she loved, and then she found out that she was basically betrayed by him. the people that she idolized and looked up to, all like falling apart in front of her. So we basically just learned that like she starts this season off with a huge wall, and that she has to kind of like become a person again, essentially.
Yeah. So during the panel, Erin Moriarty, who plays Annie / Starlight, she said that her morals have not changed. She a different person would have grown very disillusioned with all the betrayals and the heartbreak that she's experienced, but she's still the same person inside. It's just, in this new world that she finds herself in, she's going to have to adapt and change her methods. They revealed in the panel that A-Train survives his heart attack at the end of season 1, and so they're going to have to work together, and that she's going to be blackmailing him because obviously they came to blows at the end of season 1. But they're going to have to keep it under wraps because, he knows that she's working with Huey and the boys, or was, and she knows that he's involved with Compound V and all that stuff. So she's going to be blackmailing him, and presumably there will be some of that going the other way. But that's, the Starlight that we met in season 1 would never have engaged in that. And then on top of that, she's going to be having to work with Butcher. Like, they're going to have this weird, odd couple dynamic at some point. So it's her basically compromising on her black and white worldview. Like the version of Annie who, when Huey admits to her that he killed Translucent and she immediately tries to arrest him. I feel like that person is gone.
But I do like that she's sticking to her morals, apparently, because I feel like she's, at least to me, more of a moral center in the show. Minus the fact
pure. She's
right,
naive,
she's very
and
pure. But like her beliefs are like one of the more like good beliefs of people in the show, like for what she wants to do and what her goals are. It's just that she was naive about it. So
she's like she's a real superhero. She's probably like what Queen Maeve was like. At the beginning of her career. Yeah. So but since she's working with A-Train apparently, or they're doing stuff, let's talk about A-Train. Yeah, so we learned. I mean, it's no surprise, but he survives his heart attack. He didn't die in season 1, so presumably he wasn't going to be dead. But yeah, we learned about the blackmail thing. One thing that we learned about him from the panel is that there are even more speedsters in this world than we've already seen.
Because we know of the two, basically. We know
speedsters is like the Flash term, but also it's the term that he used. So we'll just run with it.
Yeah. But because before we knew 2, basically, because there was him, and then there was the guy who he was supposed to go race against.
Yeah, he had that race against.
Guy. Right, yeah. So, like, it was basically just like, okay, well, there's the up-and-coming guy, but apparently there's going to be a lot of them. Which makes sense, I guess, in this world of all these superheroes. It seems like, I don't know why you would think there's only one person would have the same one ability. Go
ahead.
Yeah, I like that idea, the fact that, in this world, there would be a lot of people with the same ability. So it's really about trying to prove that you're the best if you're part of the 7, or have the facade of being the best of the speedsters, that category.
Yeah. One of the things Jesse T. Usher, who plays A-Train, said is that we're going to learn more about his backstory, which is kind of a theme for all the characters. It seems like we're going to learn more about their backstories. But specifically for him, we're going to learn more about why it's so important for him to always be the best and be on top, and like where that drive for him comes from. He's a villain, but he's all the characters, whether they're whichever side they fall on this show, are more complex than typical supervillains. So I'm excited to learn more about him,
which is part of what makes the writing so good. And I mean, think also things that I think you could have garnered from season 1, but just further explained, just from especially from his acting choices of like him as a character. The character is super insecure, and because of that, something goes wrong, he can never blame himself. He can't handle that, so he blames other people. Yeah,
like he blamed Huey when he killed, Popclaw, his girlfriend, but he blames Huey. You killed my girlfriend.
Right.
And finally at the end, Huey's like, I didn't actually kill your girlfriend, right? And finally, right before he has his heart attack, A-Train goes, I know.
Yeah, but he has to deflect on everybody else.
Yeah, Aisha said, I feel like, because she said she's seen all of season 2, so Aisha, when she was moderating the panel, I feel like almost said too much, and Jesse T. Usher had to kind of stop her, but she was saying, Huey was kind of A-Train's target ultimately in season 1.
Yeah.
And in season 2, he's going to have a new target. He's going to direct that energy and that blame game towards someone or something else.
And that's something I wanted to talk to you about. Is who do you think that might be, his new target? Because I was thinking, okay, well, Starlight would make sense at some point, because if Starlight's going to blackmail him and they work together, that might not be the whole season. Like, maybe at some point, like, she becomes the new target for A-Train.
Yeah.
Because of that.
If he was going to go through a lot of personal growth, it would be himself, probably. He would start blaming for his own problems. Something interesting would be if he decides that Homelander is to blame.
Yeah, it would be interesting if he goes against the 7.
Because that would kind of put him on the same side as the other characters. There could be more characters within Vought, and it could be Giancarlo Esposito's character. I mean, don't forget, he was in season 1. I think he was in one scene. This actor you probably know from Breaking Bad and a million other things. He is great. But he plays Vought's CEO, Stan Edgar. And actually, I'm looking at this Collider interview with The Boys showrunner Eric Kripke from earlier this month, where Kripke said that Esposito is going to have an expanded role in season 2. Unsurprisingly, with Stillwell out of the picture, Esposito's character had been sort of grooming her to be his replacement. And we know he's going to have an expanded role. He's going to be like the representative for Vought on the show. So clearly he's going to postpone his retirement. And if A-Train really starts to blame Vought as a company or as an entity for his situation, the company's CEO might become the target of that.
So here's what my guess is going to be. Who knows? My guess is going to be, if I really think about it, it probably has to do with someone who supplied him with Compound B in the first place. Because if you think about the fact that he's deflecting and all that, and even if he grows, that's still probably part of his character. So he's not going to want to blame himself and abusing it. He's going to blame his supplier or who introduced him to it.
Yeah, that's why I was thinking someone within Vought, maybe. Right, yeah. Somebody else besides Stillwell.
Okay, so let's go ahead and jump to the Deep, because he's the final member of the 7 who was part of the panel that we got to learn things about. Because, didn't hear anything about Queen Maeve. She wasn't there, as well as
Black Noir.
Right, Black Noir, who
we've never seen his face.
Yeah, we don't know much about him in general. But
I would be surprised if we didn't get some Black Noir moments in season 2, because there's too good of a he reminds me of Hooded Justice from Watchmen. Like, there's too good of a mystery there for them to just leave it.
I hope so. I hope we get more of him. But with the Deep, definitely excommunicated from the group, and I guess he's the one that we got to see a scene of in the panel, which is him on a whale, which that's wild to me. Even watching the scene, I had no idea that wasn't a CG whale. That's an actual prop. That's crazy.
Yeah, so they said that was one of the things they talked about in the panel was the boys are on a speedboat and they're running from all these sharks or dolphins or whatever, going as fast as they can toward land. And then this like big thing comes up out of the water and you're like, oh man. And yeah, it's the Deep on a big ass whale. And it must have been CG at various points, but there also was a giant whale prop that they had built that they said was crazy expensive and took forever to build and had all these moving parts, moving tail, moving mouth, and then they drive a speedboat through it.
Yeah, which also, because they were talking about like blood being over everybody and like the dead whale being like part of the scene, it sounds like there's going to be a fight or something. There's going to be more that takes place within that scene than what we got. But I do wonder, like, because we get that, like, apparently, like all of these characters, the Deep's going to go through a lot of self-reflection, which he already kind of did last season. He's going to transform in this season, too. And I feel like maybe the whale thing was earlier in the season. This is my guess, my speculation, because he's still trying to be part of the 7. That's obviously why he's doing that.
They mentioned that that's sort of his return from, exile or reassignment, whatever you want to call it. That's sort of his big, this is my comeback. can see his hair has grown in a little bit from when he shaved it
Right.
in season 1. And yeah, Chase Crawford, who plays the Deep, said that the character is like on his own spiritual journey or quest. He said that he's kind of the comic relief for parts of this season, which isn't surprising.
Yeah.
So it sounds like, I don't know, is he going to join a cult?
That'd be fun.
I don't know. I feel like that he's one character I really don't know where his storyline is going.
Yeah, I just feel like
he's very disillusioned with the Seven. He doesn't know his place. He acts like he's Homelander's second, but he's definitely not. Right?
Yeah. And that's where I feel like maybe this whale scene is earlier on in the season. Because I feel like he's going to go through more growth based off of what they said throughout the rest of the season. That's going to distance him more from the Seven to do this thing where that was clearly for the Seven, So maybe I'm wrong, but that's my guess.
No, I think you're right. I think that's a good guess. I would bet that scene is probably from the first 3 episodes, because those are we'll talk about the release stuff more later, but the first 3 episodes are dropping all at once. For Huey, we learned that he's going to be going through his own growth, where he sort of is going to become a little more self-sufficient, a little less dependent, because he's looking to all these different people for leadership and guidance throughout season 1. Even his girlfriend Robin at the beginning, he's she's pushing him to ask for a raise. She's pushing him to move in with her. We find out that she asked him out in the first place. And then he transfers that to Butcher, and sort of just follows Butcher's lead for most of season 1. At the end of season 1, he takes it on himself to go and rescue the boys without Butcher's help. Brings his retainer, which they made a lot of jokes about in the panel. But he's going to continue in that vein, and he's also going to try to rebuild his romance with Annie, who he deeply betrayed during season 1.
Yeah, to use another reference, I feel like season 1, his relationship with Butcher was very Rick and Morty. Like, Butcher was the Rick, he was the Morty. Like anything Rick said, try to go on a crazy thing. He was like, yeah, okay.
Jeez, Butcher, I don't know if we should put a bomb in that superhero's butt.
Okay, Butcher. All right. Yeah, it's very much that dynamic.
Oh man.
So
I don't know, Butcher. That's good.
But yeah,
that's a good comparison. I really like that.
So this season, like you said, he's gonna just finally come into his own and become a leader, and that's really all we got out of it. I don't think we really learned too much about Huey's, except for that he's gonna decide to keep on fighting the soups. That's
Huey in a lot of ways is the least interesting character on the show.
Yeah, he's the milquetoast character that that just like is you can put yourself into in this crazy world in a way.
Speaking of leaders, though, we learned that Mother's Milk, who is the character played by Laz Alonso, is going to become sort of the leader of the boys, at least while Butcher is out of the picture. We don't know where Butcher is. We know that Butcher is going to reunite with the boys at some point, and that they're probably not going to be thrilled. Well, we know they're not going to be thrilled about it, because that's one of the things that Jack Quaid said about Huey. But that for at least part of the season, Butcher is not going to be around them, and that Mother's Milk is kind of going. It feels so weird calling somebody that, but that's his name, so he's gonna step up.
Yeah, and he's the moral center, essentially. He's like the guy who judges things, the angel on the side of your shoulder. But you know what? With his name, I just want to see some weird thing with Homelander, where Homelander's like, "Oh, your Mother's Milk," and like get excited about it.
Your name is what? Like the Batman v Superman scene with the Martha.
Your Mother's Milk.
Yeah. Homelander gets all weird with him.
Yeah, he gets so excited about it. He's like, "Oh, tell me, like we have something in common."
We learned a little tiny bit about Frenchie's season 2 storyline.
Yeah.
Like some of the other characters, we're going to learn more about his origin story, but we're also going to learn his real name.
Also, I was super excited.
In case you were wondering, weirdly, Frenchie's also named Mother's Milk. I think.
I was also super excited with Frenchie because I watched The Boys a year ago, and recently I've been watching Fauda, which came out in 2015, at least the first season.
I don't know what that is.
Fauda is about the Israeli-Arab conflict. It's a really good show. It's on Netflix. I highly, highly recommend it. But he was a major character in Fauda, Boaz, and like, so when I was watching the panel, I was like, wait a second. I hadn't watched Fauda when I watched season 1. I was like, wait, that's Boaz from Fauda, and I don't know. For me, that was like personally very exciting to
That's
find
awesome.
out. Doesn't matter for the show. I was like, oh, maybe more of a fan of the actor. That's about it.
Cool. I don't know. I'm not sure how to pronounce his name, but Tomer Capon.
Yeah, I was gonna say his name. I was like, I'm gonna totally butcher his last name if I try to say it.
Capone.
Tomer Capone. He's actually an Israeli actor too, which makes sense for why he was in the other show.
Yeah, no, he's cool. I like him. I like Frenchie.
Yeah. Another minor character that we got to find out, not minor character, but another character that we got to find out a little bit about was Kimiko.
I would call her a minor character.
That's why I was trying to correct myself. She's not a minor character. I meant we find out a little bit.
No,
we
I
didn't
think
find
she
out
is
much.
she is a minor character, I think. I mean, she doesn't speak.
Right. But
she's introduced, pretty late into the season, so I would call her a minor character.
Sure. Although
anyway, maybe not so minor going forward.
Yeah, because it sounded like, and this is another reveal that I was surprised that I feel like Aisha was just dropping spoilers left and right. That Kimiko's gonna have a couple boss fights, as Aisha liked to call it, which means that clearly Kimiko's gonna go up against a couple members of the Seven this season. That's not super surprising, but it's still like the fact that she would say like a couple of them. It's like, oh, so.
I love that Aisha Tyler always seems to have one foot in the world of video games.
Yeah.
We've seen her at many like Ubisoft press conferences over the years, that kind of thing. And so for her to call some of these fight scenes boss fights, just tickled me a little bit. But yeah, she alluded to a couple of different big fight scenes that seems like are maybe going to involve Kimiko.
Yeah, I guess that's not entirely surprising because outside of Starlight, Kimiko's the one who's really in with the boys who has superpowers. So
yeah,
I guess it's
she's basically Wolverine, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
In some way, I guess Popclaw was kind of Wolverine as well, but
yeah, I mean, I guess she's Wolverine without the claws. She has the regeneration of Wolverine, so yeah.
I'm excited. I hope she starts speaking. I mean, the actress who plays Kimiko, Karen Fukuhara, also said that we're going to learn more about her history, which, as you can tell by now, is a running theme with season 2. Yeah. But that it's going to put some strain or change her relationship with Frenchie somehow. So we'll see.
So final thing that we got was just a couple of reveals about the fact that September 4th is when the first 3 episodes are going to be up for viewing, and then it's going to be released weekly up until October 9th for the finale. And we also found out that season 3 is already confirmed. We got that. So season 3 is confirmed, is coming out. So
yeah, so Seth Rogen and Evan Goldberg hopped on the call like that was a Zoom call that I was on. On the panel, which really is just a Zoom call at this point. 2020 is weird.
Yeah, pretty much.
Anyway, they dropped the news that season 3 is already happening, has not entered production yet. They don't know when that's going to happen. Yeah. Seth Rogen says he hopes it's this decade. Fingers crossed.
Yeah, sometime within 2020 through 2029.
Yeah, it felt so weird to me to be learning that 3 episodes of this show are going to drop all at once on September 4.
Yeah.
Because, first of all, it's been so long since anything new came out that was worth a damn.
Right.
But even more so because I am, at this point, so used to things just coming out all at once. Clearly, everybody right now who's socially distancing is desperate for new things to watch, new entertainment, new distractions, and Amazon is clearly intent on drawing out the cultural moment that The Boys season 2 just by it's a great show. I feel like it's going to be more of a cultural moment than it otherwise would have because it's being released in this vacuum of new entertainment. And by putting out most of the season week to week, I feel like they're aware of that.
Yeah, I'm a little surprised that they're not doing like a lot of these, networks do 2 episodes and then, the rest and then milking it in a way,
Yeah,
But-
at least they're giving us 3, so we're gonna have a nice 3 hours of distraction that we're gonna have to wait week to week after
and
that.
then just be miserable waiting. It is weird to me too, because like I watched The Boys after it came out, so I was able to just binge it, and it's such a bingeable show.
Yeah, it totally is. Yeah.
Yeah, like you binged like on the rewatch all of it in a day, so it's gonna be hard. I feel like it's definitely gonna be a hard show waiting every single week for new episodes.
Well, hopefully we'll get the screeners ahead of time, Dave.
Yeah. Oh yeah, good point.
One of the perks here.
So, yeah, I think that wraps up everything that we got out of the Boys panel.
I thought that was a great panel.
Yeah.
That was definitely my favorite panel of the day. New Mutants was also good. I don't know if you watched anything else, but a lot of the panel. I mean, it's a weird vibe this year.
Yeah.
Over at
But
Comic-Con.
like you said, it was nice that they actually revealed things. It felt like there was actually a reason to watch this panel.
Yeah, they had things to talk about. I learned things about season 2, and they weren't afraid to actually talk about, you know, minor plot points from the season, which is, you know, other people making these panels could take notes.
Yeah, and I love season 1, so I'm really excited for season 2, and it sounds
Me
like
too.
it's going to be equally good, and hopefully it is. So, Mike, thanks so much for joining me for this discussion.
Thank you, Dave.
Yeah, and we will see you guys for more Comic-Con coverage on GameSpot Universe for this weird year that is 2020.
Yeah, we're going to be covering it all week on GameSpot.com, so stay tuned, and we'll see you there.
All right, later, guys. Bye.
Noted.